It's time to pull those belts tight, race fans. The front stretch is coming at you, presented by Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs. Now, here's Dan Taylor and Dirk Houston.
Well, good morning to you, race fans, and welcome to the front stretch presented by Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs, online at joeskarting.com. Fast-paced, white-knuckle racing just across the river on 23rd Avenue in Council Bluffs. Get over to Joe's today. Do yourself right with a little indoor kart racing. Just 2 more weeks until I teach Tracy Weber a thing or two at Joe's Karting when they redesign the track and throw those slick tires back on those karts. You can come out and enjoy some racing, and maybe you could show Tracy a thing or two also.
Yeah, Vegas is waiting to put the odds out on this deal. I'm sure Tracy's going to be the favorite just because of his driving experience, but they're waiting to make sure there's no injuries.
Well, I mean, there's the thing that's holding Tracy back is there's walls, and Tracy's not a big fan of walls. He's met a few of them in his day.
Yeah, but there's tires before the walls.
I'm going to eat every letter of these words. So here's the deal. Tracy
I'm going to
Weber,
be there with a Facebook Live.
Tracy Weber called me out on Facebook a couple weeks ago. Said he's going to give me a 3-lap advantage at for the slick track race. It's a oval racetrack inside Joe's Karting. They redesigned the track. They put on slick tires. And he lapped me the first time I did it. I'd never been on the track, that style of the track before, or with that tire, and he lapped me 3 times. So he said, I'll give you a 3-lap advantage, and if I can get my laps back and beat you, then you get 2 free races. I'm taking that bet every day.
So you talked him into like a 2-lap race, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what I'm going to have to do. Big show lined up for you today. Appreciate everybody joining us. Final Sunday in April. Doesn't it just feel like we were just getting ready for 2019 and all of a sudden we're 4 months in?
No, it seems the last year and a half have gone. I mean, last year just flew by, and so far, yes, this year has. And I think part of it was the crappy weather we had during the winter, and now that the good weather, it seems like, yesterday was this morning type deal. I mean, it's just one day on top of the other that just flying by.
Big show lined up for you, like we mentioned. Josh Sink, driver of the number 5 Sport Mod throughout the area, is going to join us coming up here in turn number 1. We sat down with him at the World of Wheels Auto Show. And then in turn number 2, we also talked at that same show with the guys from the Nebraska Mod Lite Tour. Their season opens up this Saturday at Junction Motor Speedway. Mod Lite guides into David Ragan in 3. And then in turn number 4, we're going to preview today's race at Talldega and talk a little bit about some of the rule changes going to Talladega, what that's going to do for the cars today. We'll get you set for the weekend of racing to come, which, by the way, this Friday and Saturday, a lot of great racing around the area, so make sure you stay tuned for that. Before that, though, Dirk, you lost somebody close to you.
Yeah, I lost my mom lost her brother, my cousins lost their dad, and I lost an uncle. My dad, everybody that knows me real close knows I lost my dad when I was young. I was 8 years old, and this man was probably the biggest influence of a father in my life, as I grew up. But I've got a cousin, lives in Illinois, that's pretty good with words, and he wrote this about this man. There are times when a loss is much more than a loss. It can be the end of an era, the end of a long time, the passing of greatness, or the passing of a lifelong visit. It can create a hole where someone else stood. It causes grief untold. It can catch us off guard, tilt all that we knew to be true, in most often unwanted, undeserved, and overwhelming on so many fronts. Although it begins an endless list of memories, we'd all choose the whole to have never existed in the first place. And so it is this day in southeast Nebraska, as much as such a loss as described above comes to our solemn attention. Without warning or any forenotice, God has called home one of the great ones, not just our family, but in the family of mankind as well. Rest in peace, Cousin Darwin. Please continue your watch over us and smile down upon us, as you always smiled amongst us. It's been a rough couple days, going to be a rough few more, but it's just part of life.
Yeah, unfortunate part of life. We've all lost somebody that affects us greatly, and sorry you got to go through that, but you got all of us here in the racing world. All right, I want to cover one quick news and notes before we get to Josh Sink, and then we'll move on with today's show. We talked a lot about what the future of NASCAR is going to be, and we've speculated quite a bit with NASCAR offering to purchase majority stake in ISC, the International Speedway Corporation, and just recently they upped their offer. The stock share for all the publicly held shares went up. NASCAR upped their offer. They expect it to be approved soon, and it's a couple of bucks over trading. Earlier this week, Bruton Smith of Speedway Motors offered to purchase any publicly held shares for Speedway Motors that anybody, because you can go onto the stock market today and purchase stocks to those companies. And it's kind of got me thinking a little bit. Now, I want to get your thoughts on it because you understand that whole world a little bit better than I do. Why are they trying to purchase these stocks?
Well, I don't know. I used to know because I used to own part of the company. I did own some of that stock, but I do not currently. So I'm not sure exactly what the Smith's share is in the company. I don't know right now if they own 51% or if they own 48%, where they're at. But if he buys back the whole company, then it will be a solely owned company, and he can basically do whatever he wants at that point. It would also make it much easier to sell to NASCAR. Now, that in my book would be a bad thing because then NASCAR would have literally the monopoly on that type of racing. 20 years ago, Cale Yarborough had some investors that were looking to start a second circuit, very similar to the Cup Series, but, they didn't have a whole lot of tracks to run on at the time. Because everything was owned, and maybe that's behind all this. Maybe something like that's going to happen, NASCAR's trying to sell their deal. Maybe somebody thinks, well, we can, make a bigger, better NASCAR, and, we'll get Bruton on board, and we'll just race at his tracks.
So to give it a little bit more information, this mother company, Sonic Financial Corporation, has nothing to do with the restaurant chain. I thought the same thing.
No, I didn't think that because, again, having owned some of Bruton's companies, I knew that was his company also. Okay, well, they have set out to acquire all outstanding shares of common stock other than those already held by the Sonic or the Bruton Smith family and the Bruton Smith company. Yeah, I'm. It's interesting to see what's going on here because this is obviously the beginning of a couple of steps that are going to change the face of NASCAR completely. I'm in the favor of, as long as this goes the way I speculate it's going, I'm in favor of NASCAR owning these tracks because I think one big issue with us not seeing the big changes we want to the schedule, more short tracks, less mile and a halves, less schedules, being able to really be flexible with the schedule. I think a lot of that is the fact that NASCAR doesn't get to decide a lot of these things with the tracks because they don't own the tracks. If NASCAR purchases both of these corporations' tracks, NASCAR gets to do with whatever they want to with these races. If they want to make them shorter, they want to make them longer, they want to move them to a different date, NASCAR's got a lot more flexibility. As long as that's the end game, I'm all in favor of this. Well, but see, NASCAR can do that. They just can't do it on a yearly basis because usually, and not always, but usually it's a 3-year contract with these tracks. So if they go, with Bruton Smith, hey, we want to do just a 300-lap race at Bristol, and Bruton says no, then the contract doesn't get signed. Well, then the racetrack just sits there. So we know that's not going to happen. It's probably going to get tried on at least an experimental basis one time. Yeah. But I don't think NASCAR owning the whole playground would be a good thing. But, I've been wrong before. What? When? I'm man enough to admit it when I'm wrong. It doesn't happen very often, and I've already used up next year's. So on Tuesday, the stock closed at $13.94. Sonic Financial Group made an outstanding offer to SMI for $18 per share. So if you happen to own any of those, you could be getting a $5 profit if you happen to purchase it today, or a $4 profit. So we'll see what happens there. Interesting stuff as we kind of move forward. It's nothing's going to happen in the next week or two. Oh, yeah. This is years down the road if and when anything does happen. All right. Like we were talking about, we sat down with Josh Sink at the World of Wheels Auto Show a couple of weeks back. This is back in March when all the floods were going on, and Josh was one of the few people from over in central Iowa that was able to get over to us and sit down and have a conversation with us. So he was brought to you by Red Oak Fabrication. Get more information about getting your chassis, parts, or pieces powder coated. Chassis start bare frame, $275. Give him a call today, 712-623-4911, or email jordanf@redoakfabrication.com.
Yeah, those guys at Red Oak Fabrication do good work down there. I used to work for them and kind of was around when they got their powder coat setup going. They've powder coated a car for us and a bunch of parts. So, yeah, definitely give those guys a call if you ever need any race parts repowder coated.
Last couple of years you've been with Edge Chassis. Staying with them again this year?
Yep, we got a new Edge chassis for this 19 season. in the process of getting it put together. Got it running yesterday, so hopefully in the next week or two we'll have it finished up and get to racing here pretty soon.
Fingers crossed, right?
Fingers crossed, weather permitting.
If you can get to the racetrack.
Yeah, we're going to have to go south one of these days or something because it's not looking too promising around here real soon.
Going to go race in Dubuque and Davenport and stuff, are you?
Yeah, it's a different world over there. You
Yes,
get
it is.
I always say east of I-35, it's a different world of people and racing. So I've never made it over that far, but we might have to give that a try.
You've been racing in the southwest Iowa area for quite a while, in the central, western Iowa for a while, Adams County, Corning, Crawford, that kind of places, Shelby County. Since then, you've moved. You said that in the off season you got the job over in Des Moines. You've had to move for the job.
Yeah, we've been living up in Des Moines for about a year now, so just primarily focused on Corning. I keep my car in Red Oak still, so it's a 2-hour trip every weekend to go race. So it's kind of limited my racing schedule the past couple of years, but we still like to get out to I-80 when we can, Harlan, Denison. Hopefully going to try some tracks in central Iowa this year, maybe give Marshalltown a try. I've raced Boone before, but haven't been there for a couple years, so we might try that as well, too.
Stewart's a little closer, too. So.
Stewart's close. Stewart's a great track, just not for me. I struggle every time I go there. I'm used to these big, open, wide tracks, and you get on the little bull rings, I struggle mightily on them.
Everybody has a kryptonite.
That's right. That's mine for sure.
I always kind of enjoyed your story because I think it was about 3-4 years ago. I saw you race for the first time. I was probably at I-80 Speedway, and you did okay. And kind of followed you because you're from the Red Oak area where I grew up. And then when you switched to the Edge chassis and Josh started working with you, man, you exploded. And all of a sudden you were winning races left and right, and you were competing for championships.
Yeah, I started in the Sport Mod division with a Jet chassis, and Johnny was always good to me. I got my first Sport Mod feature with that Jet chassis, and then the following year, Josh's stuff was starting to come around, and it was a big convenience factor for me. Him being in Red Oak and me being in Red Oak is to drive across town if I needed anything. And yeah, he's got the Sport Mod program figured out. I went from one win in like 6 years, and I think I've got about 18 in the past 3 years. So it's made a huge improvement to my program.
He's done a really good job, I think, of while you're getting used to that car, he'll come out and shake it down and kind of tweak it to where he likes it and then go from there on you. And so it's very hands-on because that's the way he likes to do business. He's very much a hands-on builder, and he doesn't want to have too many chassis out there because then he doesn't have time to be able to work on all of them.
Yeah, for chassis manufacturer standpoint, he's probably one of the most hands-on guys. Like you said, he doesn't have a lot of cars out there, but he helps everybody that's got one of his cars, and it shows on the racetrack. You got guys, James Hopkins is a perfect example at I-80. You see him getting faster and faster every year. Josh is working with him. He can take a guy like myself who was a mid-pack runner, and he can tweak you and get you up front real easily.
We did an interview with Ron Hornaday a few months ago, and Ron's started building some dirt modified chassis, and he was never really a dirt guy, but he says now as a chassis builder, he goes, I have a guy call me up, and he says, well, I'm having this problem here, and he goes, so I tell him to put in this spring and this spring and this spring and this shock, and he goes out and it really helps him out. He goes, well, then I'm at the track 2 weeks later, and I got some guy come up, and he starts complaining. He goes, but you had me do this spring, and this spring. And Ron goes, I looked at him, and I says, well, you weigh 200 pounds more than he did.
Well, and that was a big thing for myself and Jared Weston, especially going to the Edge chassis. Josh was working off of stuff that worked for him, and he's maybe $160 soaking wet. And you got Jared and I pushing close to 300 pounds, so we've kind of had to do things a little bit different to make it work for us.
Move that weight around just a little bit.
Yeah, it's hard to get rid of that left side weight when it's all in the seat.
Yeah, and it's hard to build around it sometimes too.
That's right. That's right.
Before the modified days, the sport modified days, racing stock cars throughout the area too?
Hobby stocks.
Yeah.
Started out in the hobby stock in 2004. Did that for about 7 years. Had some success running out at I-80. Back in 2007, I think, was my most successful year out there, but otherwise just primarily Corning and never really had too much luck there. Back when I started, we were racing 50 cars a night, and the competition was really tough. So moved to the Sport Mod about 8 years ago, and I always want to get back into hobby stock, just see how much they've changed, because I know they've changed quite a bit since I started. Even the sport mods have changed quite a bit since I moved up to them as well too.
Was it your dad that used to race hobbies too, or brother, or who
my,
was it?
My dad raced stock cars for about 30 years at Corning. Bought a modified in '99 and raced that at Corning, and made one trip up to Denison. Otherwise, before I started racing, that he had only been to Corning and Denison. Those were the only two tracks he ever raced at, and he made a couple starts at I-80 and ended up 10th in the Cornhusker Classic in 2007, which I was pretty happy. And then I also had a younger brother, Brett, that raced hobby stocks with me. He actually won a hobby stock feature at Corning before I ever did, and I started 3 years before he did. So that was kind of a hard one to swallow, but it was fun racing with those guys.
So it was your dad that got you involved in the racing?
Yep, my dad, I always tell people he did less with more. I mean, he was a family man first. Didn't have the best job, never had a lot of money. He always was kind of under the philosophy, if he can't finance the car himself, he's not going to do it. So never had a lot of backing behind him, but always was fairly competitive. Not a guy running up front weekly, but he could run with the best of them when he wanted to. And he's kind of passed that mentality on to me as well too. He'd probably be a little upset if he knew how much money I spent now on race cars, but you got to do what you got to do to be competitive.
That's the reason why you had to take the better job.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, there's days when you know you don't have the winning car, so there's no sense in sticking it in a hole and destroying it trying to win. So, you really show a lot of maturity in in your driving once you've found that and can figure it out.
Well, and his philosophy with me and my brother racing, he was financing our cars. We were both in high school, or I was just getting started in college, and he always told us, you tear it up, that's your only shot. So it taught us how to race people with respect and be cautious in the decisions you make and not force the issue when you don't have to.
Yep, and always pass on the inside because they can't stuff you in the wall.
What's the plans for the future? You want to go modified racing a little bit, maybe a late model?
We're heavily considering the jump up to the A-Mod division this year, with Corning sanctioning the A-Mods as a top-tier division in NASCAR. But then I got to thinking about it. Maybe I was cherry-picking a little bit, because I figured everybody was going to be rookies in the A-Mod division for Tier 1 at Corning, and that Rookie of the Year deal going down to Charlotte. I went down there a couple years ago, got third in the nation, and that deal's a real neat deal. So I'd like to make it back there. So I'm holding off maybe 1 year on the jump up. We'll see what happens. It's a big financial jump for me to go to the A-Mod. I think I could be competitive with them, but at the same time, I like to go to these specials and be competitive. And you go to these big A-Mod specials and watch the names of the guys that aren't making the show. And that would be a hard one to swallow for me, not making it out to be features.
Why don't you just build a cup car? They only got like 36 or 37 out of 40 every week,
Yeah, that would be great. There's a lot of guys from Iowa that are being those field fillers, unfortunately. Maybe I could be one more.
They're making their way up.
They are.
Former Camping World Truck Series champion from Iowa right now.
Yeah, Brett Moffitt. Yeah, just up down the road from me. It was good to see him win that last year, and the Moffitt families.
Daytona,
yeah, Mike Lynette. Yep, he's gotten a good ride. That just shows the level of equipment.
Oh yeah,
he's been a decent driver, but gotten some good equipment, and you can see what he can do with it now.
With the race to the modifieds, we had a lot of conversations over the last couple of weeks with drivers about the cost of the sport to still having fun. When you start to spend that extra money and you jump up into the bracket of the modifieds for your race budget, there's a chance that it's going to suck some of the fun out of it. Are you worried about that at all?
I think it might bring a little bit more of the fun back, because when you get to the point where you're running up front and winning races, when you don't win races, that's when you get a little bit down on yourself, and it seems to take some of the fun out. But jumping up to the A-Mods, the level of competition, running as hard as those guys do, I think it might bring a little bit more fun to it. You don't have as many expectations for yourself. You're kind of learning, racing the best of the best. So kind of was the reason I moved up from the hobby stocks when I did up to the sport mods. I was losing some of the fun. I felt like I was long enough in my driving career that I should be more competitive in the hobby stocks, so I was getting down on myself and made the move up, and it was a little bit more challenging. And Now we're competitive in that, so it might be about time to make the next step.
Now, just remember, when you're going faster in an A-Mod, when you do bend something, you bend a lot more of something.
That's right, and I'm still in the financial spot. If I bend anything now too majorly, it's going to take me a long time to recover, so that's part of it in moving up.
What's a special race in the area that you've got circled on your calendar you've got to win someday before you call your career a success?
I've won the Tradition at Corning. That's the big race down there. I've won it 2 years in a row. Probably the next biggest one for me would be the Cornhusker Classic out at I-80. I won it in the hobby stock in 2007 and then got disqualified on what I believe is a minor technicality. But that race has always been special to me. It always seems ultra competitive every fall. The past 4 years in the sport mod, I think I've got third, fourth, and second there, so that would be the next one on my list. I'd want to cross off.
All right. Thanks some of them sponsors to help you get up and down the road.
I got to thank Josh Most of Edge Chassis. He's been a big help and a big supporter of mine. Gary's Garage, Gary York down in Essex, Iowa. He's the one guy that helps me on the car. He's been helping me build this new car, and he's been a big help to my success. He builds my motors, great power. We like to run the open motors, so I can't thank him for all his help. I got to thank Dave and Kathy Hart Farms. I got to thank
Red Oak Chrysler,
CR Graphics, Kerry and Rick Weston keeping the car looking good. Hilltop Auto Body. I got to thank Bailey's Beauty Bliss out of Ankeny. They're lifelong friends of mine that have stepped up and started helping us out. Preferred Properties of Iowa, Cole Winther, and then I got to thank J&L Home Improvement out of Clarinda, Iowa as well too.
And I noticed you mentioned open motors, and with all the crate motors that are out there, and I mean, they've got to be 90% crate. Have you had an engine claim the last couple of years at all?
I haven't. Luckily, that's kind of gone away. If somebody wants to claim me, they can have it. I mean, we've run decent equipment, but it's nothing special. I'm actually going to start the year with a crate motor while we freshen up the open motor. Luckily, Gary, since he's been building my motors, we've been getting 70, 80 nights out of them, and we're getting close to that time frame on this one, so it's time to give her a little freshen up.
Maybe a valve spring change or something along the way, about it?
Yeah, he usually tears the bottom end off, puts new bearings in it, new rings on the pistons, and then changes the valves and valve springs out on it, so get us fresh and going.
During that 70 or 80 nights, do you do a valve spring change in there at all? Or?
We have not been. Okay. We've been lucky, and we'll check them, make sure they're still up to par every winter, but luckily we've had good luck with those.
So you're not buzzing it real hard?
No, and with the IMCA changing the rules to the 7,000 RPM chip, it's actually probably helped with the longevity. You're looking 300 to 400 RPMs difference than what we were running, but 300 to 400 RPMs makes a lot of difference on the longevity of these motors.
Absolutely.
Running the 5 machine still again?
Going to be number 5. Hopefully, red and white's kind of been a family color for us, so you'll be looking for that this year as well again too.
Is that your dad's number?
My dad was actually 55, so
okay.
if you check out Josh Sink Racing on Facebook, there's a lot of pictures of the car on there. There's a little 55 in the corner of the 5. So
I'm just noticing that,
I wanted to make my own identity, but wanted to keep it close in the family as well too.
Josh Sink Racing, you can find him on Facebook. Make sure to follow him. Good luck to you this season, and have a great time in Des Moines at the new job. Hopefully everything's working out well for you.
Yeah, it's going great. We'll looking forward to getting this racing season started, and thanks for having me on.
All right, we'll see you. We'll take a break.
Thanks,
We'll be
Josh.
back on the front stretch.
Every race car driver has run into the same problem. It's well past normal parts store closing hours, but you need that one to finish your car. The guys who brought you White Knuckle Racing by the River bring you Joe's Karting Racing Parts and Tire Store. Open until 10 p.m. Monday to Thursday and open until 11 p.m. on Friday and Saturday. A parts store that fits your after-hours schedule, and you can turn a few laps at Joe's Karting while you're waiting for your part to get pulled from their warehouse. joeskarting.com for more information.
Racers all over the country are discovering the benefits of powder coating their chassis. Powder coating offers a clean, even finish you will be proud to show off to fans and sponsors. Plus, it's a more durable surface. While looking beautiful, powder coating offers superior protection against corrosive chemicals typically spilled during routine maintenance. Bare frames start at $275 with estimates available if blasting or reworking is needed. Get your quote today by emailing Jordan F. at redoakfabrication.com or by calling 712-623-4911.
First Detail Supply at 102nd and J offers you the same professional-grade products that are used in detail shops across the United States. With the high-quality detail products and the guidance you'll receive from First Detail Supply, your car, truck, motorcycle, or boat will shine with a lasting finish. Find out more about First Detail Supply by stopping in at 102nd and J Street or check out firstdetailsupply.com. Don't forget to mention Front Stretch and receive 10% off your purchase.
We're hooked up in turn 2 and still showing the green flag on the front stretch.
Welcome back to Into the Front Stretch. About ready to do another Red Oak Fabrication interview. If you need to get your chassis powder coated, get it done at an affordable price at the intersection of Highway 48 and 34 in Red Oak, Iowa. Online at redoakfabrication.com. They're going to take care of you for $275. That's a bare frame. Now, it might be a little bit less for the next guys we're talking about because they've got a little bit smaller frames than most chassis.
Yeah,
but
they're almost like twofers.
But just give Jordan a call today, 712-623-4911. Send him your measurements. He'll get you a price. Most of your chassis are going to run $275 for the bare frame. A little bit more for reworking and sandblasting because of the man hours, but they're going to give you a great price down at Red Oak Fabrication. Find them online, redoakfabrication.com, at the intersection of Highway 34 and Highway 48 in Red Oak, Iowa. And you can message Jordan on the Red Oak Fabrication Facebook page. He'll take great care of you there also.
Get a quick turnaround on any of your replacement parts midsummer from a few of those little fender bender deals.
Joining us now on the show, president of the Nebraska Mod Lite series, Scott Negates, and treasurer and secretary, Doug Pollock, joining us. How you doing there, sir?
Not too bad.
Gentlemen?
Doing pretty good.
Good to have you guys on the show. We saw you over here at the auto show, and you guys have got a couple of your cars on display, and you guys are helping out with this Nebraska Mod Lite series. Talk a little bit about how the series got started and how you got to where you are today.
Let's see, it started back in the early 90s as dwarf cars. They just kind of evolved in with modified bodies on them now. Motorcycle powered, 1,000 cc.
What kind of bodies did they have on them originally? Was it more of a sprint car or?
28 to 48.
Old coupes.
Old
The old
coupes.
coupes.
Okay.
Sedan bodies.
Okay. That'd be kind of neat to see those. Maybe do a throwback scheme one of these days?
Maybe.
The dwarf cars, most of them always had nicknames. You guys nickname your cars too? I mean, I can remember, I can't even think of Mighty Mouse was one. And
We had to have cartoon characters.
yeah, okay.
That's what it was. Yeah.
Okay.
You still doing that with the Mod Lights then? Or?
Not quite as much, but most guys still do. I still
Yeah.
run a donkey in my car.
And mine's
Right, are
name
you
is
talking
Zelda.
about the driver or something in the car?
Both.
A donkey driving your car? Is that what you got?
Co-pilot.
Some days he's a donkey, some days he's a...
Some days.
So how long have you been a part of this series then?
Yeah, I'm one of the original members that started the club.
Okay, why?
Because there's just a bunch of us around that had them and decided to get together. And
Probably a little
Start
cheaper
race
body-wise to put that on there than it was to do the old coupe-style body, isn't it?
it's about the same cost-wise.
Well, how about work-wise?
Work-wise, maybe just a little less.
Yeah.
Well, 'cause, I mean, I saw some pretty intricate bodies, on the dwarf cars, 25, 30 years ago. And I knew it took some time to build some of them.
Yep.
Doug, what do you do as a part of the series?
Well, like I said, I'm the secretary treasurer.
Yeah.
But we have a website, NebraskaModifiedLights.com, and also I take care of the Facebook page too,
Okay.
which is Nebraska Modified Lights.
Lite, correct?
LITES, yeah.
Okay.
So as secretary treasurer, you just do everything Scott don't want to do?
Kind of, sort of, yeah.
Yep, and I don't want to do much.
Well, as president, you don't have to, right?
Yeah, I just
Delegate.
dictated
Yeah.
it.
It's all about delegating it.
Well, and being with the club, we have to do our payouts. We do our own payouts and point standings and stuff like that. So the statisticians and stuff like that. And
So you show up at a track with basically just a sanction fee to run your show. And
yeah, we show up and like I said, we do our own payout and everything. So I got to kind of keep track of all that. And
Do you race, Doug?
yes,
You do?
my car's here too.
Which one's your car number?
The number 4.
Okay. And then you've got the
54N.
54N. What's the inspiration behind the numbers? Why the 54 for you?
54, I just flipped my old man's number backwards back in the early 90s, and then here lately I added the N to it. Just seemed like there was a lot of 54s.
Yeah.
I travel around quite a bit. So.
Okay.
And the N stands for no more money?
Yeah, that works.
Doug, what's the inspiration behind your 4?
Actually, my number's been 12S.
Okay.
For the last 19 years.
Yeah.
So I just changing it up this year. And
okay.
My brother-in-law used to run the number 4K, and so I kind of thought, well, I just go with that. And so I kind of teased him that now I'm a Kevin Harvick fan. So
not a bad fan to be.
Yeah.
You guys start off your season in April with a couple of test and tunes, several test and tunes. One's at Junction Motor Speedway, another one at Boone County and Albion, and then at US 30 Speedway, also at Off-Road Speedway. That one pending it being able to dry out, but it looks like your first race is going to be May 4th at Junction Motor Speedway.
Yep.
If somebody wants to get involved, how long would it take to build one of these cars? Is it something that they can go and buy a regular modified and chop the chassis?
No, they're purpose built.
Okay.
There's quite a few different chassis companies around that are building them, and then this time of year it's pretty easy to pick up a used car that's pretty decent for a reasonable price.
Is this something that's popular in another part of the country, and you guys are trying to get it more popular up this way?
Yeah, we've been struggling to get it more popular up here. They're pretty popular over around Boone, Iowa, down around Kansas City, Nevada, Missouri, Salina, Kansas.
I would assume, and you know what they say about assuming, but it would seem to me like you guys would have a lot of action on a short track, and then because of the limited horsepower and speed on the bigger tracks.
We ain't really limited on the speed part. Most time we're running a second faster than an A-mod.
No kidding.
Yeah, they don't weigh nothing. I mean,
what are the weights?
1325 with the driver.
Do you guys, is that your weight rule?
Minimum.
Is that general? Okay.
That's the minimal.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I know I first saw mod cars, I'm going to say early 90s maybe, or not the Mod Lites, but the dwarf cars. And because they ran on the small track at what is now I-80, but I'd seen them run at Harlan.
Yeah.
I mean, Harlan, I remember there was a lot of guys that hadn't been on something that big. There was a lot of blown engines that night, I remember. But they were real popular. Everybody booked a show. You know, at least one show during the summer in the late 90s with you guys.
NebraskaModifiedLights.com is the website.
Yes.
LITES.com is the website. Also, Nebraska Modified Lights on Facebook.
Yes.
Great way to keep a hold of you guys to see where you're running next. Looks like you guys are doing a lot of McCool, Park Jefferson, Junction, Lincoln County Speedway, and North Platte. And then you're also going to be hitting up I-80 Speedway. Looks like, is that September 1st? Is that their championship Sunday? Is that Sunday, September 1st?
I don't think so.
What night it is.
I don't think it's their fall brawl. Yeah, that's championship Sunday.
Oh, okay.
So you'll be out there for the championship Sunday class. So that's a great night. So excited to see you guys out there. I know you guys have been to I-80 Speedway before.
Yep.
I think you weren't there in 2018, but I think we saw you running in 17.
Yeah, it was 2017.
Yes. 16 or 17, you were there with the
17.
car show, I remember.
Yeah. Well, we've got a radar gun that one of our great sponsors donated, so we're gonna track your guys' lap times and see how true you are to that 1 second faster than the full-size mods.
Okay.
Most nights we are.
All right, guys, do appreciate your time. Don't forget NebraskaModifiedLights.com for more information on their organization, and then follow them on Facebook so you can figure out where they're going to be next. Have a great season, guys.
All right.
Yep.
Thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks, guys.
We'll be back on the front stretch.
We all have that coworker that runs their mouth off at how great they are. They shot a 5 under par, 95-mile-an-hour fastball, bench press 375, brah. Wouldn't you love to shut them up by schooling them at Joe's Karting? Council Bluffs' premier indoor karting track, professionally designed so each corner is your opportunity to embarrass your coworker. Call Buddy for your next company outing at 712-256-5278. Joe's Karting, white knuckle racing just across the river on 23rd Avenue next to AMC 17.
Your daughter's signing the finish line. She's in. Your grandpa air guitaring the pre-race concert. He's in. Soldiers saluting the flyover. They're all in. Fans holding their breath before a wreck. In. Drivers trash talking on your headset after the wreck. Definitely in. The Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series race at Kansas Speedway. Saturday, May 11th, under the lights. Tickets at kansasspeedway.com. You in?
If you love wings, if you love rings, and all kinds of other tempting things, great times, great food, get to Quaker Steak and Lube.
Quaker Steak and Lube is the official watering hole of the front stretch and the home of MAV TV, featuring action from the Lucas Oil Late Model Series.
Great times, great food, get to Quaker Steak and Lube.
Located on Mid-America Drive in Council Bluffs.
Feather the brake and get back to the gas. Dan and Dirk are headed into turn 3 on the front stretch.
Joining us now via the Red Oak Fabrication Powder Coating Hotline. Get your powder coating done at an affordable price, just $275 for a bare frame, a bare chassis. Any reworking, sandblasting needs to be done. Getting maybe a little bit more for that manpower. Just give Jordan a call today, 712-623-4911, or email him, jordanf@redoakfabrication.com. Joining us on the Red Oak Fabrication Hotline, the driver of the number 38 at Front Row Motorsports. It's David Ragan. David, it's an honor to get you on the show.
Yes, sir. Thank you guys for having us.
It's always a pleasure to talk to you guys, especially the Cup Series ones. We don't get to talk to you very often, except for when we're down in Kansas City. And you guys made a big announcement earlier this week that you've got a new sponsor coming on board for the Kansas race.
Yeah, the Kansas race is just around the corner, but the Mystic Oil and Lubricants, the Sitgard company under the Sitco banner. They've been a partner of ours at Front Row Motorsports for 2 years now, and the Mystic brand will be on our race car coming up at Kansas. That's always an important race. It's another evaluating and building some better race cars. So I can't wait to get out there. It's been a great track for us the last couple of seasons as well. And then to have the Mystic Oil and Lubricants colors on Ford Mustang looks pretty fast and looks racing.
Yeah, Kansas has been a little bit of a tricky track for a lot of teams, and an important track, like you mentioned, because it is one of the playoff races. But you were able to knock down several top 20 finishes. I believe your best has been a 13th place finish at Kansas.
Yeah, Kansas is one of those tracks. They repaved it, reconfigured it a few years ago, and as that asphalt ages, it changes. Goodyear brings a different tire, and so you consistently have to be on attack, and you've got to be improving your setup and always working on it. What may have been very fast 1 year ago may not work too great this time around. So we've been able to adapt. The line has moved around. You can now run from the very bottom to the very top. So, yeah, it's a great place. And, man, that whole Kansas metro area really embraces the sport of NASCAR. It makes it a lot of fun to come out and see the fans in the Midwest, to be excited about NASCAR being there, the Hollywood casinos there at the racetrack. So it's a real cool spot for us to go as drivers and as industry, but for fans to go as well.
You know, there's been a lot of changes in the NASCAR world over the last 5 years. Have you had any frustrations with, you end the season with one car and one rules package only to start the season with basically a completely different setup?
You know, it is hard on the race teams and the drivers to adapt, but I feel like that's the world we live in, and we have to adjust. You know, what was great racing and a safe car and maybe, a cool-looking car 5 years ago, that's not the case today. Car models are changing very fast. The technology changes very fast. I think we got a little stale in our sport and car design for several years, and so I think we're behind the eight ball a little. So with the schedule changes, with the rule changes, a new car being introduced in a couple of years, I think those are things that needed to be done, and I'm happy to be along for the ride. So, yeah, sometimes change is a good thing.
You guys have been off of competition for about total of 15 days when you guys hit the track today at Talladega. That's a long stretch for NASCAR.
It is. When you have that off weekend, it's great for the teams. It's great for everybody to kind of hit reset. But, yeah, we're getting antsy, from sitting around the house and catching up on some things. Talladega is always an exciting and a fun race, so can't wait to get rolling later and see how things go. It should be an awesome day. The weather's perfect, and it should be a fun race.
Well, we're excited to see you down in Kansas for the number 38 Mystic Lubricants. Can't wait to meet you down in the pits, and hopefully we can bring our winners of our contest by and meet the great David Ragan.
There you go. Come by and say hello. Look forward to seeing all you guys out there in a few weeks.
Thanks for your time. Best of luck today. We'll see you down in Kansas in a couple of weeks.
Yes, sir. Thank you, guys.
So once again, that was David Ragan. He's going to be in the number 38 for Front Row Racing, Front Row Motorsports at Kansas Speedway for the race coming up in a couple of weeks, and he'll be in that Mystic Lubricants number 38. I can't wait to look into seeing what that Mystic Lubricants is. We'll get some information when we're down in Kansas, and maybe that's something that we can throw onto the old Colorado when I'm driving up and down the road. So check out Mystic Lubricants, a new sponsor coming into the Cup Series and into the sport. Always great to hear those, so please do support those great sponsors coming in and supporting our awesome sport. We're going to take a break. We'll wrap this baby up in turn 4. Dirk and Nan. We'll be back on the front stretch.
First Detail Supply at 102nd and J offers you the same professional-grade products that are used in detail shops across the United States. With the high-quality detail products and the guidance you'll receive from First Detail Supply, your car, truck, motorcycle, or boat will shine with a lasting finish. Find out more about First Detail Supply by stopping in at 102nd and J Street or check out firstdetailsupply.com. Don't forget to mention Front Stretch and receive 10% off your purchase.
Racers all over the country are discovering the benefits of powder coating their chassis. Powder coating offers a clean, even finish you will be proud to show off to fans and sponsors. Plus, it's a more durable surface. While looking beautiful, powder coating offers superior protection against corrosive chemicals typically spilled during routine maintenance. Bare frames start at $275 with estimates available if blasting or reworking is needed. Get your quote today by emailing Jordan F. at redoakfabrication.com or by calling 712-623-4911.
Hey, look at that. You're sitting on your couch playing Halo, Madden, or NASCAR while your friends are at Joe's Karting. Each lap is an adrenaline-filled, heart-pumping, white-knuckle experience that you can only get at the Metro's largest indoor karting track. Eco-friendly Honda engines rip you around the professionally designed road course at breakneck speeds. Can you reach the 14-second lap bracket? There's only one way to find out. Put the controller down and get to Joe's Karting, 23rd Avenue in Council Bluffs next to Quaker Steak and Lube.
It's checkers or wreckers as we enter turn 4 on the Front Stretch, presented by Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs.
Just about ready to wrap this baby up. Quaker Steak and Lube, the official watering hole of the Front Stretch, has all the action for today's race at Talladega on the big screens. If you're like me, I'm going to be down at Quaker Steak and Lube today because I finally cut the cord. My contract with Dish is over with. I have no TV. I'm trying to go the entire summer without TV, so I'm going to be down at Quaker Steak and Lube enjoying the new drinks and the new sauce specials that they have. The sauce of the month. And you can join me today at Quaker Steak and Lube for all the coverage. Coverage starts at 12:30, and I believe the picks are due by 1:30 today.
Now, you say no TV. Are you talking no Sling, no Hulu, no Netflix?
Yes, but I do have on my own private network, I do have some TV shows that I could watch if I wanted to, but I'm going to try and go without TV and give it a little bit of a break, which is easy to do because Wednesday nights, Thursday nights, Friday nights, and Saturday nights, I'm working late anyways, so it should be easy enough to do.
And at least one Tuesday a month, you'll be at the slick track taking lessons.
giving lessons. That's not going to go well, is it? This is going to be embarrassing. Well, what are you going to do? It's going to be fun. Make sure you join us May 14th as I get my butt whooped by Tracy Weber.
You need to turn this into some type of a charity event is what you need
so?
to do.
It will be.
Whose charity?
Come on down May 14th to Joe's Karting and watch as Tracy Weber and myself battle for just a few laps to see if I can stay on the lead lap.
I want to get a one-day liquor license and sell beer out in the parking lot that day.
Hey, make sure you stay tuned. Coming up in a couple of weeks, we're going to get the July Crewman for a Day contest that Iowa Speedway announced. In fact, we should be announcing it probably in the next 2 weeks. I got to get with the guys over at Iowa Speedway and find out who we're going to be partnering with. We've had a great time partnering with David Starr and Jimmy Means Racing, so maybe we'll jump on with them, or we can get some new people and do things a little bit different.
We maybe we can get some access through Shane Martin with Chevy.
Yeah, that'd be fun. There's some today's race at Talladega. You know, it's one of the bigger crapshoots in the sport, and now it's even harder because we don't really know what these cars are going to do. We've watched practice, we've watched qualifying. That's almost like a completely different race, though, because you're out there in single car, you're not in competitive mode, you're not really pushing the limits, and now we've got a different rules package for these cars, too. Dirk, kind of break down a little bit what's different with the cars today as opposed to last time we were on the track 15 days ago at Richmond, and then before that even at probably Texas when we saw this aero package.
Well, the biggest thing is even just the Talladega, the super speedway package. This is going to be new for super speedways. This will be the first race since I want to say 89 somewhere roughly in there, that there won't be a restrictor plate on the engine. There will be a restriction, but it's going to be a tapered spacer. I believe the spacer is 1 inch. The final hole's still the same, but the airflow should be so much improved that they say it's 100 horsepower. Of course, NASCAR is not going to give a racer 100 horsepower without pulling 98 horsepower away from them in some type of a downforce package.
Yeah.
So they've got this monster spoiler. They've added an inch to the top. So now the spoiler is 9 inches tall.
Good land.
And I don't remember the specifics on the width, but they went back out over the fenders like they used to have in the rear, back over the quarters. So I think they've got a total of 4 more inches in the back width-wise.
Mm-hmm.
And this is going to knock a hole in the air, probably about like one of the trucks would. So you talk about people sucking up at a huge rate, it's going to be really spectacular. When you see a car is going to be able to close in a matter of seconds from 10 car lengths back. It's going to be nuts. And 3 and 4 cars deep are going to be in the draft from the lead car instead of just the car in front of them. So this race is going to be interesting. And the big one, even though I think they're going to try and relax and, they'll kind of do like they've done on the last couple restrictor plate stage races, where they kind of race around till about 4 laps to go or something. Yep. And then they race to try and get those stage points. And you might see an accident usually there towards, that last 5 laps of a stage. But these guys, unless they really pick it up quick in this practice, and there's enough young guys in there now that they're not going to pick it up real quick. The closing rate is going to surprise them. I think you'll see a little bit of carnage come Sunday. Or this afternoon.
And I think it's a little unfortunate. One of the big downfalls to super speedway racing and the excitement of it is the overall cost of the sport. It's been talked a lot about over the last 5 years, how it's just spiraled out of control. Despite the efforts, it's gotten more and more expensive. It's just the world we live in. And I think that's one of the big reasons why we don't see the big one happening a lot, even though it almost seems to be kind of contagious. When you've got a race that the big one happens, then there's 3 or 4 of them that happen instead of just one big one that happens. It's a big one and then 3 or 4 medium ones, and then before you know it, you got 15 cars finishing the race.
Well, and I think it just goes back to the nature of the beast, because you get down to, again, the last 8-10 laps and people start racing in that stage, and then if you get a fairly big wreck, they go green or they go red so they can still have a green-white checker or, at least a couple green laps before the end of the stage. And again, people are still racing for those points. And cautions breed cautions, always have, always will. So you end up with a lot more damage. I just think it's going to be, or it has the ability to be a real ugly race. I hope it's not, because I don't like to see that.
Yeah.
I like to see good, hard racing, but I think you've got a lot of young guys in there now. These William Byrons, who's got good equipment on the super speedway, and he's never driven anything like this, I'll guarantee it. So unless he really gets a handle on it I think they've got 2 and maybe 3 practices total. Mm-hmm. I don't see how he can get a handle on it in that time.
Is somebody like Kyle Larson, who I'm not going to call him a veteran. He's been in the sport for 5 years now. This is going to throw him for a loop too. Because even though he's got experience, he doesn't have this experience.
Well, you would think, you tell somebody you got 100 more horsepower, that's really a lot with your right foot. Well, with the amount of drag that they're putting on, it's not going to be that big a deal. I think the speeds, are still going to be low 190s. It's not like they're going to all of a sudden jump, up 10 miles an hour, which if they didn't change the spoiler, they'd have that ability to do that.
Yeah.
So, I don't think that 100 horsepower where anywhere else you'd think that was, a big drivability thing. I don't think it's going to be that big a deal. The spoiler to me is the thing that's really going to hurt or help these guys. I think guys like Kyle Busch is going to love this.
Yeah.
Kyle likes it when you got to drive. Tony Stewart would love this if he was in the race car. He would think this was fantastic. Carl Edwards would have really liked this.
Let's not get too excited. Tony had a tendency to turn a good thing around pretty quickly and not like it.
Brad Keselowski's going to like it for 1 or 2 races until they screw it up.
Right. Yeah, as he said at the All-Star race last year, which brings me to my next point of picking for today's race for all those that are in the season-long Pick'ems contest. Every time we come to a super speedway, I tell you guys the same thing. Don't take your big guys. Don't take Martin Truex Jr., Kevin Harvick, Brad Keselowski, Joey Logano. Don't take your big guys because they are just as likely to get caught up in the big one and finish outside the top 30 as anybody else. And then every time it comes down to me deciding who to take, I end up taking Brad Keselowski, and I end up using one of my big picks.
Well, I take a mid-pack guy, and, I think at Daytona I took Ricky Stenhouse, I think.
Yeah.
But, he won a couple restrictor plate races, so
and
if he doesn't have to beat on everybody getting through the line.
Right, he is really, really good. But the thing, he's just not a very patient guy. Mm-hmm. And he usually ends up making a couple of enemies before the end of the first stage, which doesn't do him any good later on in the race when he needs a friend or two.
You think with him not being patient, that's why Danica's gone?
No, my understanding is her not being patient.
Or should we just ask Aaron about that now?
Yeah, let's do that. Take David Ragan today. He's got super speedway experience.
He's won on a super speedway.
He's won on two super speedways. Win. He's won at Daytona and at Talladega.
His only wins.
Yep, and I think he's a good mid-pack guy. Listen, if you get out of today's race with 30 to 35, 40 points, you need to take that as a win because today's all about survival and preserve to make sure you don't lose the contest after today's race.
Yeah, well, that's the good thing about only having 4 restrictor plate races. It's kind of tough to lose the contest, and we're not in a 5-week.
Yeah.
So nobody has that to worry about.
Which was on purpose. We had to really shuffle the schedule because that gave me a bit of an ulcer when they came out with the schedule, and I'm like, oh no.
Yeah, next year's schedule's a little bit different deal. But we didn't want to end the contest on a toss-up race like this. So
this race last year, Brad Keselowski won stage 1. Ryan Blaney was in the 21 last year, right? Or was he in the?
No, he was in the 12 last year.
Yeah, okay. So that would have been Paul Menard, right?
Yes. Yep.
Paul Menard won stage number 2. Kyle Larson, actually, let's go back to the other way. Joey Logano ended up winning the race. Kurt Busch, 2nd. Chase Elliott, 3rd. Kevin Harvick, 4th. Ricky Stenhouse Jr., 5th. David Ragan with a good top 10 finish. He was in that 6th spot. Eric Almirola, 7th. Alex Bowman, 8th. Ryan Newman, 9th. And Daniel Suarez, when he was in the 19 car, finished 10th. Kyle Larson, worst of the day, finished 40th. Eric Jones, 39th. Trevor Bayne, 38th. Trevor's not in the series anymore. Austin Dillon, 35th. Brad Keselowski, 33rd. Clint Bowyer, 31st. Paul Menard, after winning stage 2, ended up finishing 30th, which, when they talk about it's easy to look at that and say, oh, something happened with Paul's car and he finished, something happened late. Because normally when you look at like a speedway track or a short track and a guy won stage 2, well, something must have happened. Maybe he got a pit road violation and he was all the way to the back. Heck, he finished 30th after winning stage 2. No, that could have just been he got shuffled out of the draft, and before you knew it, he was in the back of the pack. And don't take anything to anybody that says, well, so-and-so didn't pass pre-race inspections, and now they got to start from the back. Honestly, starting from the back today means nothing because they're going to be to the front in 5 or 6 laps if they want to.
Well, I wouldn't say that, but just because they're going to go out and sort out for 5 or 6 laps, but they can definitely be to the front by the end of the first stage.
Yeah.
It's
with the way the draft is, the way everything's all set up, it's way too easy for these guys to start in the back and make their way to the front. Nice and easy, but like you always say, when you run around with the squirrels, you get your nuts cracked. Back in that 30th, 25th, 20th position, that's where all the headaches start, is back in that area.
Well, especially if you're running in a pack, there's only 4 seconds between first and 30th. You know, so and that's not room to dodge something. Now, if you're halfway through the race and you've decided you're going to go a half a lap back, then if that accident happens at 20th place, there's usually nobody with maybe just 3 or 4 cars behind that 20th place car, and then you've got a whole bunch of time before there's anybody else coming, so they got plenty of time to get slowed down and miss everything. But whether that's going to happen today or not, I don't know.
It's going to be interesting to see what happens today. I've never been a big fan of it, but I will be watching it because it is exciting when that big one happens, and when it comes down to the last couple of laps, man, that's when I think it's the money. It's great to watch these guys wheel a car for 500 laps at Bristol or whatever, but it's very unique to watch those last 2 to 3 laps at Talladega and Daytona, something you don't ever get anywhere else.
Yep. Yeah, to me, the racing this year, even at Daytona, was pretty decent, especially those last couple laps. The race at Richmond I thought was fantastic. I enjoyed watching. I watched every lap of that one. The Bristol race was good. The racing right now is as good as it's ever been.
Mm-hmm.
The crashes aren't happening. These drivers are taking care of their equipment. A lot of the thing, everybody complains about these drivers, well, they came up with a checkbook and that's why they're racing and stuff like that. The other part of that is they know that checkbook's limited.
Mm-hmm.
They know they can't go out and tear up 3 cars or 5 cars a weekend, So they go out and they try and take care of stuff and just get last till the end of the race. You see a lot of these teams, and I know Starcom might still be doing it. They go out with 4 sets of tires for the race, and none of them are stickers, where everybody else has got 10 sets of stickers. So they come in a lot of times and take fuel only. You'll see them gain a few spots on pit road because they didn't change tires, but they end up laps down because they just don't have the tires to try and run the speeds the other guys got. They've got the equipment, except the tires.
Yeah. So that's NASCAR today. Again, the coverage starts at 12:30 on Fox and is on the MRN affiliate here in Omaha. So make sure to listen to that if you're not able to watch it. All right, the week of racing to come, I-80 Speedway has the annual Bobby Parker Memorial with the Cumberland, Nebraska 360s and the MSTS 360 sprint cars. It's the first joint race of the year for those guys. Adult tickets are $12. Kids 6 to 12 get in for $5. Kids $500 get in for free. Let's see. Gates open at 5:30 for adults. Racing set to start at 7:15, so it's going to be the Nebraska 360s and the MSTS 360s joining forces coming up this week. Saturday night at Crawford County Speedway, Denison, Iowa. It's the 4th annual Summer Slam Demolition Derby. Grandstand tickets are $12 for adults, $8 for kids 6 to 16. Kids $500 get in for free. Pit passes are $25. Let's see. Car inspection starts at noon. Man, they're going to get a lot of those cars. Those demo derby cars are thick as thieves over in that area. Grandstand gates open up at 5 o'clock with racing to follow. More information on, let's see. I don't see a website on the flyer. For rules and information, dominateondirt.com. So that's the 4th annual SummerSlam at Crawford County Speedway. Now, if we didn't talk about your racetrack, I apologize. We're now kind of into the regular weekly racing action. I-80 and Eagle both started this weekend, and they continue throughout. So while we're not going to take time to talk about every track on weekly racing, we're going to try to hit as many of the specials as we can. If we happen to miss one or you want to submit one, send it over to us, frontstretchradio@gmail.com. Make sure you get your picks in on time so that you're not late for today's race. And Dirk, I think that does it for us.
Yep, and just keep hoping if you're over in Iowa that they go ahead and the governor signs his gambling bill, because they said there will be gambling on racing.
Thank you to everybody for joining us. I want to say thanks to Josh Sink. Make sure to follow him on Facebook and follow Nebraska Mod Lite on Facebook. That's their website, LITE. That's their Facebook page. And then thank you again to David Ragan. Best of luck to him in today's race. And we're going to have to swing down to Kansas Speedway and introduce ourselves and see if we can get some time with driver of the 38 machine at Front Row Motorsports. Thank you to all of you for joining us. We'll be back at it next weekend to bring you another great day of nonstop racing action. Thanks again for joining us. We'll be back next weekend to do it all over again. This has been The Front Stretch on AM 590.
The camper flying 18 flags is in. The guys on pit road are in. Second graders with mohawks, in. Bratwurst for your 25 closest friends. Bring it in. And because it's BYOB, your soft cooler is always in. The Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series race at Kansas Speedway. Saturday, May 11th, under the lights. Tickets at kansasspeedway.com. You in?
Every race car driver has run into the same problem. It's well past normal parts store closing hours, but you need that one to finish your car. The guys who brought you white knuckle racing by the river bring you Joe's Karting Racing Parts and Tire Store. Open until 10 p.m. Monday to Thursday and open until 11 p.m. on Friday and Saturday. A parts store that fits your after-hours schedule, and you can turn a few laps at Joe's Karting while you're waiting for your part to get pulled from their warehouse. joeskarting.com for more information.
The official watering hole of the Front Stretch has you covered any day of the week with the best wings, great burgers, and amazing steaks. Each weekday from 4 to 6 is Happy Hour, featuring $1 off draft and well drinks plus $4 Luberitas. Mondays are Kids Night. Tuesdays are all-you-can-eat wings for $12.95, and the lube even delivers to the Council Bluffs area. Like Quaker Steak and Lube Council Bluffs on Facebook for a full list of weekly events.
Get to Quaker Steak and Lube.
Mid-America Drive, Council Bluffs.
This has been the Front Stretch Radio Show, presented by Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs. To contact Dan or Dirk, find them on Facebook at The Front Stretch or email them at frontstretch590@gmail.com. If you missed any part of today's show or want to hear a previous show, subscribe to the Joe's Karting YouTube page, where you can find almost every Front Stretch show.